Good afternoon to our viewers and everyone watching on the Game Champions YouTube channel. I'm Aan Cabal, writer and editor at GameChampions.com. And I have with me a very special guest and a leading voice in the world of gambling and iGaming, Mr. Stephen Crystal. Stephen is the founder of SCCG Management and a gaming industry veteran with over 30 years of experience in gaming operations, iGaming, and sports betting. Welcome to our show.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Okay, so today we're here to mainly talk about sweepstake casinos and their future in the U.S. market. So I wanted to start by asking, how do you view sweepstake casinos in the current gaming landscape in the U.S.?
I mean, the truth of the matter is sweepstakes is not a new thing. It goes back decades and decades. There used to be a very popular sweepstakes offering called Publishers Clearinghouse. There was a front man, Ed McMahon, who was Johnny Carson's sidekick. And basically the business model was to sell subscriptions to magazines, which would entitle you to be entered into a sweepstakes drawing, which would result in the winner being awarded a certain amount of money, let's say, $200,000 a year for the rest of your life. That was the original concept behind sweepstakes. Over time, it grew to be implemented in the form of brick and mortar shops with different types of software and hardware that would, in essence, allow you to play for casino style games for prizes, and the prizes could be redeemed for cash. And now we have the evolution to online, and the main reason it has picked up momentum in the U.S. is because it was originally thought that iGaming jurisdictions would come online one by one, and in the end, after 5-6 years of legalized online gaming in the U.S., we only have 6 markets that have some form of online gaming. There's quite a few that have online sports, but only a few that have online casino, a relative few. And so the vacuum has been filled by digital representations of sweepstakes and very, casino-like or sportsbook-like implementations in terms of the content. And so the vacuum has been filled, and right now, the estimated GGR for sweepstakes gaming online exceeds the GGR for legalized online casino in the U.S., which is a really interesting development.
Okay, yeah, amazing. So, yeah, okay, then next I wanted to get a little bit into the regulation side of things. So, I guess, how do you see sweepstake casinos navigating these growing regulatory challenges in the U.S., and what changes to the legal framework do you expect we'll see in the coming years?
That's the right question. And so what I would say, we can look at fantasy sports as a good analogy. When fantasy sports started 15-20 years ago, this is what gave birth to DraftKings and FanDuel, two of the leaders in the USA market. It was basically legal opinions being written by lawyers and payment processors signing on board based on the legal opinion that a fantasy sport was a skill-based contest, which was otherwise legal in most of the states in America. Over time, what happened is some states put a stake in the ground and said, we will not allow fantasy sports. Some states said, we will allow it with this regulation. And some basically didn't regulate and left it kind of in the gray. I think the same thing is happening now with sweepstakes. You have some states like Michigan, for example, who have come out and said, not only is it illegal, but if you do it, we're not going to allow you to then participate in legalized iGaming. That's Michigan. And then you have lots of states that, that have no opinion. And so therefore, most of the market remains gray. I think the feeling is that over time, more and more markets will speak out against sweepstakes. There may be federal efforts to regulate sweepstakes as well. We have a class action or RICO suit against the app stores, which is really putting pressure there. So most of the sweepstakes sites are accessed through web apps and not through apps that are in the the different app stores.
Mhm.
So I do think it's under pressure, but by the same token, as someone who receives a lot of inbound interest through our advisory side of the business, I would say it has not slowed down. We're getting dozens and dozens of inquiries a month, and so that tells me that the market is still very strong here.
Okay, yeah. And so I guess touching more on the select states that have already gone into banning or regulating a little bit harder the sweepstakes casinos. Do you have any idea which ones you think will be the next ones to take that step?
Look, I think it's. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time reading the tea leaves.
Mhm.
I focus on what the landscape is at any given time, and obviously, as you know, the platforms that offer sweepstakes are fairly sophisticated, and they have the ability to turn on and turn off geofencing on a moment's notice. And so, I think the platforms and the operatives can be fairly nimble,
Mhm.
navigating what is and is not allowed. Obviously, estimated at 8 to 10 billion a year GGR, the market is sufficiently large by any estimate that even as markets declare, there's still lots of market opportunity. I would say that the bigger issue is the same issue that we had as fantasy sports developed, as online gaming or sports betting. We had 150 brands that started with sports betting, and we're now down to less than 20.
Mhm.
The reason for this is that the cost of acquisition goes up and up and up over time, not down. So now, as the market matures in sweeps, it becomes more cost intensive to get your share of the market. We started the process with Chumba controlling over 65% of the market. It still has market dominance. And yes, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more players who are getting smaller and smaller shares of the market. But when the cost of acquisition and retention go up, it's going to make the economics harder. So there will be fallout even amongst the groups that's getting into it now.
Okay, yeah. And like speaking in terms of the traditional licensed gambling companies, what do you think their role is going to be, like in the push for or against stricter
Look,
regulation for sweepstakes casinos?
the largest brands, Caesars, MGM,
Hmm.
DraftKings, FanDuel, Penn Gaming, ESPN, Bet, Fanatics, they're kind of committed to a opposition strategy. But let me, if you look at DraftKings, they were opposing some of the fantasy sites that were doing pick'em style. They thought were violating the rules of fantasy. And then when they couldn't stop them, they just acquired them, or they replicated what they were doing. So I guess what I'm saying is, if we look at Michigan as an example where they've outlawed sweeps, we know for a fact that when sweeps was going strong in Michigan, it was not cannibalizing online gaming. So there's a different customer appetite. It's a different type of content. So I guess what I would say to you is they will oppose strong. And if they can't defeat it, then they'll join it.
Okay, all right.
This is kind of the history in America.
Uh-huh. So I guess you touched on it there, but so you would say that like the growth of sweepstakes, does it threaten or complement the broader gaming
I,
industry?
I, I think it depends who you talk to, obviously. My job as a connector and a subject matter expert is to listen to all sides. My job is not to pick and choose. Obviously, as a lawyer and trained in gambling law over 35 years, I'm also very keen to do things that are legal and correct. But I would say that it depends on your perspective. If you're anti-sweeps, you're going to point to studies and statistics that suggest cannibalization, that suggest that customers are being harmed. If you look at the U.S., and it's fairly routine now that we have billion-dollar jackpots for our lottery. The most regressive form of gambling in the U.S. is lotteries. The people least able to spend the money are the people buying lottery tickets, and the chance of winning lottery tickets is so bad. So I'm my view over 35 years is in the U.S., we're not like Europe. We don't over-regulate people. We give people, the opportunity to partake in things. It may not be great for them, but we encourage them and the companies that offer it to be responsible. So we have a lot of self-regulation that is effective. And I don't see that changing. If anything, I see the U.S. becoming more and more free, and I see Europe and the rest of the world becoming more and more restrictive. So I kind of feel like people will partake in things that they enjoy. And recently we had an acquisition of DraftKings of one of the lottery reseller companies. When they started, they were in the gray reselling lottery tickets in the U.S. Now it's mainstream. So I would say there is going to be pressure. Not everyone who's in it will survive because of the economics. And in the end, the best of sweeps will get incorporated into legalized iGaming in the U.S. So that, I think, is the long-term picture.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess that answers my next question. It was just like timeline-wise, like next 3 years, where do you see the industry?
Nobody knows. That's kind of it's just a guess. I mean, a lot of people at one time, if you asked them, they would have said 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Depending upon the day, somebody might say, a year. I think what I hear from people is if you look at these investment to get into sweeps, most people feel you can make a return on your investment within 6 months. So as long as the horizon is viewed as longer than that, you're going to see people coming in.
Okay, cool. And finally, I guess just as founder of SCCG, is there anything you can share about your presence in the sweepstakes world? Any potential new plans or exciting partnerships on the horizon?
Look, I would say it's, as experts in the industry and as a global company, we have to be responsive to our partners. And we have many partners that touch sweeps. We have more partners that touch things like sportsbook, Class 2 mobile on-premise gaming, which is a tribal gaming initiative. So I would say the preponderance of our advisory and managed service business is non-sweeps, but I've never viewed my role as being a gatekeeper to say yay or nay. I go by the law. I go by what I know about regulation, and I believe in the free economy, in the free market. And I also believe in being responsive to customers. Obviously, I want them to gamble in a responsible way. I want products to be offered responsibly. But I'm not here to be the government, and I'm not here to be, the moral police as to what people should and shouldn't do. This is just not what I view my role as. My role is to support the best technology, the most responsible technology, the best content, the most responsible content, and to do it in such a way that it's professional, legal, and without, conflict. And so that's how we approach sweeps and a lot of other sectors within the gambling industry.
Okay, well, perfect. Beautiful. Thank you very much for your time, I guess. That's all the questions I had. And thanks for taking the time to sit and chat with me.
All right, Aiden. Good to chat, and we'll hopefully chat again soon.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay.